Hello and welcome to the Holts September 2021 main sale. Today we're going to be doing a video on all of the side-by-sides and hammer guns in the sale, and we're going to start with this, which I don't actually want to show you because I'm desperately want to buy it myself, but inevitably it will go for more than I want, so I'd rather show it to somebody who might actually buy it, who I like, who might give me the chance to play with it before they collect it. This is a Maruku. And we're all slightly more used to over and under Marukus, and maybe a side-by-side box-lock Maruku, but never a quality side-lock Maruku. The engraving is extremely Japanese. I quite like it. It's strange in this environment next to guns like this that are engraved in a very English way, as they're supposed to be, and this sort of style of engraving and the cut of the metal looks very much like something you'd find on a 70s Maruku or an 80s Maruku. And on a side-by-side it's very different. But I like it. And it has to be taken as it is. It is a Maruku. You know, if you saw this and it had some English name on it, you go, well, that's not quite right. Or it had a Spanish name on it, you go, that's not quite right. But it is unbelievably rare. For a Maruku collector, this is a must. So I think it's 800 to 1,200 pounds. It's gonna go for the top end of that, inevitably, if not more. It's good, it's tight. It's an interesting makeup, sort of looking at the way it's put together. One note is the chokes have been opened up at some point, which, to be fair, actually serves a good purpose because it means it will take steel significantly with less stress in your life. This is beautiful. Let's move on. This is an Alfred Bittorf of Dusseldorf. This comes cased. I think we even looked at this in the sneak peek sale results from the last sale video. This was fairly early entry to this sale. Absolutely beautiful, just well put together, and look at that. This is a beautifully put together gun. You know, the stock spec and the barrel spec is quite continental, but that doesn't matter. It doesn't stop this being just a beautiful, look at that profile and the carved engraving. It's a beautiful machine. So this is lot 1751. Lot 1751, estimate 800 to 1,200 pounds. It is a box lock non-ejector by Augustus Francotte. This gun was built as a gift, and it really is done to the highest of standards. This is a gun that stood the test of time. This gun was built in 1897. It is still beautiful. Firstly, the Damascus. I could look at this Damascus for days. It is exciting. And then you get to the rib, and the way that rib is machined. Look at the way that fore-end iron is engraved. Isn't that beautiful? The scrolls flow into each other. It's like a nice car or a nice boat. There's something about it that is just untangibly attractive. The curves, the stipple background, the textures, the lines of the gun. Look at this safety catch. When you push it off safe. And it's all filed up into the corners. This is the best of its time. And it belongs with someone who can appreciate every part of it. And the case is nice too. I mean, the case is not quite as exciting because it's got the presentation plaque from the chap it was made for. It's got history, it's got provenance, but this gun is better than history and provenance. This gun is beautiful, well assembled, well curated. This is lot 1410. Lot 1410 is a George Gibbs. This is a really nice bit of understated elegance. The gun build quality is top notch. You know, we're not looking at anything wildly exciting, but what it is extremely elegant, a good looking gun. And apparently this little gold diamond here was a mark of their best guns. Quite large and robust in the hand. Like, it's not a particularly refined side-by-side in the hand, and to be honest, I really like that. You can find some guns where the grip and the fore-end are very sleek and slim. That sort of fullness is very pleasant indeed. That's a very nice thing. What's that? E.J. Churchill, Orange Street Gunworks, Leicester Square, London. This is a little 410 box lock. It's quite unassuming. It's got a nice scroll pattern. It's got obviously a tiny little child stock. It is in lovely, lovely condition. What is that? 1510. For those who just want something a little different, or even just for an investment thing you can let your child shoot, or to be fair, it's not so small that you couldn't just take it out for a quick pop now and again for just to put a smile on your face. That is a lovely thing. And your little crown on the bottom there. Lovely gun. E. Patton & Son. That's nice. That little opening system with the thumb there. In what looks like a 16, what's that, 1511? And it's actually in fairly tight order. Very interesting gun. And it's got to be one of the coolest side-by-sides here. This is a Purdy 32-inch live pigeon gun. Let's put it together. We've got a 3-inch chambered action. Very nice. And you can actually feel, especially you can pick it up, you can feel immediately the weight and the balance of the barrels is towards the back there. So as much as these are a long set of barrels, they're not going to be horrific handling by any standard. Flat unfiled rib, slightly raised, with J. Purdy & Sons, Audley House, South Audley Street, London. Made of Sir Joseph Whitworth's fluid pressed steel, it should say. And it does. Semi-pistol grip. This is a beautiful, beautiful gun. Look at that carving around there. Very elegant side clips. Not too big, not too nasty. The standard Purdy House scroll with J. Purdy & Sons on. This is a lovely, lovely gun. And for a gun that should be a bit of a big Bertha, it is extremely nice. Beautiful, beautiful stock. Beautiful forend. As I say, the way that it sort of bleeds up into the barrels but still has some depth to it, that is a lovely gun. Ray Awards 22nd gun RW0002 is here. This is a slightly more modern thing of beauty. Ray Ward of London, little 20-bore side-by-side. Isn't that stunning? And I mean this is a very beautifully put together gun. That trigger guard, the beading up the side there, the finish of all the metal work. This is a stunning machine. So this little stunner is lot 1550. It is in £7,500 to £8,500. Born in 2015. A little box lock ejector by Ray Ward, virtually unused. I mean, it is very, that sound. Carved breech ends. I don't know how you feel about carved breech ends. I'll be interested to know in the comments how you feel about carved breech ends. It suits the vibrance of this deep scroll acanthus that covers the whole thing. And it does suit the way that it's carved in with the stipples. It's nicely brought into the gun. It sort of brings it in nicely as opposed to just having it plonked on there, this little texture around the outside. London made, and it feels fantastic too. The checkering on here is stunning as well. It is sharp diamond pointed. Very cleanly done. And I know you shouldn't expect any less, but look at that forend tip there. Let's say, very nicely put together. Very nice. So this is a Hendry, Ramsey and Wilcox. This is lot 1458, and I presume it's not going to be a great high value because it has got a few cracks up through the hand of the stock there. This is a particularly interesting one because that style of carving around the fences there and that thistle on the side are nice little aftermarket additions to what would have been a probably Spanish Holland-esque scroll gun that they got sent over. To be fair, I'm not a big fan of that little monogram, but it's a nice touch and it's nicely done. Very un-Scottish thing for a Scottish gun maker to put together, but it's very pretty, that little addition. And you do see that quite often, interestingly, is that the overlaid engraving. Nice little Boss single trigger. Smells old. Smells nice. DB Crocart of Perth. Live pigeon gun, a Scottish live pigeon gun, no doubt. Very pleasant. Nicely finished as well. For me, this gun is all made up of that rib. Look at that texturing on that rib. That is painstaking hours of work, but just looks beautiful. The actual finish in the end there, where you have the slightly deeper stippling up through the middle and the slightly more polished edges. And it probably sounds stupid, but it does just pull it together lovely. It drags your eye down that rib even more so than it's supposed to. Been refinished a little bit, re-blacked on the accessories there, but that is a nice gun. That's 1703. John Dixon. I have 3 Dixons in front of me in this auction, 2 of which are Dixon round actions. Let's start with this. This is a box lock. This is a Birmingham gun, just a Birmingham, probably a Webley and Scott underneath. Box lock ejector. finished by Dixon & Son. That's in at £500 to £700. So you could own a John Dixon & Son box lock ejector. And it is beautiful. Like, as box locks go, it's a stunning box lock. That scroll engraving is absolutely beautiful and really well put together. And the way the acanthus just pops out of that scroll. It's nice. But that's not why we're talking about Dixons. We're talking about Dixons because we've got two round actions. Here's an interesting one, right? So these are built 30 years apart and the styles are very different. This is a 1930s one and this is a just pre-1900s one. The styles are very different. The engraving styles are very different. When they're side by side, this one is nicer to look at when it's independent of the other, but actually the refinement that goes into this rose and scroll one, it's probably a little bit nicer. It suits the elegance of the gun as much as this probably looks more Scottish. Lot 1405 or 1412. Here's the interesting one. This is a 27-inch. This is 4:6. This is actually in quite good condition. It is a plain gun, very likely original flat top checkering. On the stock here, you've got that slight diamond coming out the middle. It is a very nice gun. This is a 29-inch gun. You have a crack through the hand. The barrels are thin. It is a little bit loose. That 30 years of extra use. To me, a 30-year-old gun is fairly old. 30 years can put a lot of use through a gun. This is a lovely thing. This is in at 1.5 to 2,000. You're probably going to want to rebarrel it, and you're definitely going to want to restock it. And they are so lively, so part of you. They flow. It would be a crying shame to buy that and then stick it in a box and never use it. It's been pinned through the head by the look of it as well. I love this 1405, but just beware if you are going to buy it that you are probably going to want to invest quite a bit of money getting it where it wants to be. What a beautiful piece of history and is addiction. Guys, let's move on. Stanley Hyam. Look at this. In terms of cool actions, watch. How sweet is that? That subtlety, that little button push, just to take the forend and move it forward. Definitely whoever buys this is going to spend at least a day just sit there pulling that forend back and forward and smiling to themselves that nobody else has something like that. Stanley Hyam Warrington, nice Damascus flat rib there, the pistol grip. This is actually a very pleasant gun. A very pleasant gun. This is lot 1806 Intermarco SA Helmut Meyenhausen. I mean, it's quite an attractive gun. So you get a feeling of why is this here? So it drags you in and you have the slightly deep carved oak leaves, but they're not that detailed and well, I don't get it. Why is it here? Lot 1806. And here is the answer. We pull the top lever over and we open the barrels. It is a hammer ejector, self-cocking hammer ejector. It's actually a side lock ejector with the hammers on the outside so that you can cock and decock as to your heart's content. This is £1,000 to £1,500, this Intermarco. A quality hammer ejector is going to cost you tens of thousands of pounds. A more reasonably priced hammer ejector is going to cost you less. More importantly, you get to cock yourself hammers, but you don't have to eject. It brings a hammer gun slightly more into the 21st century. I think it represents good value. This suits somebody who wants a particular gun, and I'm not sure if I'm that guy. 1806, go check it out, let me know your thoughts. Here's a quick one, 1700. Holland Holland built on a trigger plate action. This is interesting, ready? Look at that safety catch that you can push and pull from the side if you want, I presume for some sort of speed purpose. Is definitely different. Proper piece of history. How much is 1700? Holland Holland, a scarce 12-bore H. Holland and W.T. Perks 1879 patent trigger plate action non-ejector. 1500 to 2000. Perks patent automatic thumb slide safety of 1879. Yeah, 140-year-old gun. I understand it's not your classic Holland. In fact, it's a very strange, tiny, short action. I really like it, and I love the gold inlaid cocked on the back there. I love this. Here is a Knotter pair of Wigan and Elliots, and we've looked at some of these in the past. These Wigan and Elliot bar in woods, there is something about a bar in wood. Trigger plate is in an island surrounded by wood. This is, I think, beautiful gun making. An absolute piece of beautiful gun making. The bead, the metal, everything about these guns is nice. The rib style is interesting. That will not suit everybody or not Most people won't like it, but I'll tell you what, for not a great deal of money, these Wigan Elliots, this is 1800 and there's 1801, you could create it into a composed pair. Snap action, I think, is lovely. The way they lock up on that single bite might not be the strongest, but it doesn't matter. It's a gun that will bring you a lot of joy. It's a gun that will make you smile. You won't see a Spanish copy of that every day, but it is special. I know I'm spoilt when I haven't shown you a single standard Holland, Purdy or Boss from here, of which there are numerous and plenty. This, however, we have not seen before here. This is a Holland Holland Royal 12-2. This is lot 1473, a 1935 Holland 12-2, built in 1935. So the whole concept at the time was kind of perfected side-by-sides up until this point. And if you wanted a fairly bog standard side lock ejector self-opener, by this point the world was your oyster. However, if you wanted a super fast gun, a lighter gun to carry, a super fast gun, the options weren't quite as rife as they are now. Obviously, nowadays you can make a gun out of aluminium alloys. Those options weren't really about back then, or at least not to the standard that we can produce them today. How does one thin down an action? Well, shorter chambers. Shorter chambers mean slightly thinner walls, lower pressures. You can then have slightly shorter, thinner barrel walls. Everything. You can lose weight, you can lose action size, action length. And the Holland 12-2 was born. The Royal 12-2. I actually have a 12-2 or 2-inch Dominion ejector here. Between the two, the Dominion ejector feels heavier and more clunky. It's very noticeable. This is a Holland Holland Centenary 2-inch cartridge, and actually, as Dominion goes, it's probably one of the most beautiful Dominions you'll see. It allows for shorter detonations, a lighter frame. I have read somewhere that the point was to create a gun that felt like a 16 or a 20, but saved mucking about with cartridges. Same performance and a lighter gun with less recoil. Feels in the hand like a 12, dimensions-wise. The barrels are thin, the frame is thin. It feels maybe more like somewhere but a 16. But in the movement and the handling, it feels like a 20. This is probably the best of this style of gun. Self-opening, patent of 1922. Its barrels will open themselves. I mean, for 6 to 8 grand, it's nice. I like it a lot. And for those who want something a little heavier and a little bit less delightful, the Centenary's here. I find them both beautiful. Very nice. Anyway, that's enough staring. Let's move on. We're going to spend a short period of time talking about this because I'm going to do a full video on it. The gun that time forgot. This is an unsold, unfired gun from the last of the Birmingham gun trade. And as time went on, that trade disappeared, as you well know. This is exactly as it would be on the shelf. It's brand new. You've got the case, the gun. So it's £1,000 to £1,500 for an unfired, unused, as brand new G.E. Lewis & Sons box lock ejector. Everything about it is beautifully put together. It's just, it is the last of its species. There's plenty of other box locks. They've been used and they got their chance to live in their time. Let's move on. This is a John Rigby hammer gun. This is quite nice. This is a rare beast as well. Apparently Rigby back in the day etched the last portion of their barrels harsher than the rest. We have John Rigby & Co, 72 St James Street, London, and at Dublin. This is a beautiful bit of kit. So when I say etched, what I mean is, obviously they etch the colour out before they brown it, of all brown barrels, but they leave it in a little longer and you end up with the texture of the Damascus coming through that little bit more, which is quite interesting. Right at the back you barely see the pattern, right to the front where you can feel the pattern in the metal. You've got the entire array of what this steel could look like, but instead of dipping it from different amounts or soaking from different amounts, we managed to keep that perfect bead of what the steel was like before we even etched it at the end, and that, I presume, is why they did it, and it is lovely. This hammer gun is a push-down underlever. You have the Rigby patent 4-end catch there. Look at the way that underlever is mated in to the trigger guard, and then look how the engraving is brought out of that join. This is beautiful gun making. You've got the acanthus scroll going around the side. This is a beautifully composed gun. If you look at the 4-end iron here, the way that it leads there into the barrels. It may be a little bit too restored for some tastes, but a fantastic bit of Rigby history. Look at that side profile with those big beautiful stout hammers. The engraving, that's just a good looking gun. E.J. Churchill. Here's an interesting Churchill. You have a flat cross-filed rib, Agar Street, Strand, London. Long barrel Churchill. That would be a good purchase for someone as a usable gun. So here's an interesting one. This is a Stephen Grant side lever, one of a pair of 20 bores. Very beautiful indeed. There's something about the way these guns look I think we'll all agree is absolutely stunning. This one unfortunately has had a strange life in terms of the actual finish on the action, but what a beautiful, beautiful thing. A Grant side lever in a 20 bore. The way that action scales down, if it wasn't elegant before in a 12, now in a 20, is lovely. That slightly scallop rib there. If ever there was a poster girl of guns, it is this. I mean, that lines the action from that top side. No top lever, very subtle safety catch. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. I'm not sure whether I'd have this as my poster girl or the 12 bore, probably the 12. This deserves just that little bit of time, doesn't it? So we've got a couple here, and these are both picked out of pairs. And we'll start with the other one. This is an Arrizabalaga, Pedro Arrizabalaga. These are actually very well built guns. This one's got a crack in it and a few other little issues, but in terms of workhorse guns, you can't go too far wrong. They are solid. The quality of craftsmanship, the woodwork, the metalwork, the way they're put together, the lockups, the engraving is all done to a good standard. They are good, honest guns. This one's 1302. Have a look at the cast on it though. I mean, that is... It's got a bit. This must be 15.5 inches of wood. That's a nice gun. Here's a little bit of an interesting one, and both of the pair are like these. They're apparently inherited. This is lot 1300, and 1300 is a pair of guns made by Lebeau-Courally, Arms de Grand Luxe à Liège. Look at that. A bouquet of flowers in a vase with a acanthus scroll is a beautifully put together thing, but instead of doing a plain background, you've got the fine scroll in the background. It is a thing of beauty. I think these, I've seen a few Lebeaus, and they are all, in my opinion, very nice. This one is interesting. The relation before who had it was very small, and then the relation who had it thereafter was man size. And as such, usually you see inches or 2 inches. It's got a 5-inch extension on it. It's an interesting one, and that slightly rounded action I find beautiful, and that entirely distracts from this. And if in fact, if you put your hand over the gap, you can barely tell. It's a very interesting gun. Nice, long stocked, slightly scalloped but filed tapered rib. Very beautiful little 16 bore rounded action. You might have to get over that or have it restocked. But either way, a single trigger 16 bore Lebeau-Courally with fairly modern sort of spec and dimensions. Short barrels-ish, 38, 28 inch. That's a very pleasant machine. Anyway, back inside. A smattering, a small selection of the guns here at Holts Auctioneers September 2021 sale. Don't forget to check out the website, all the other stuff, the bits and bobs they've got that we haven't looked at today. Then inevitably I'll get the list of angry messages saying, why didn't you look at 1362? That's what the website's for. That's what emailing Holts is for. They'll be able to help you out on any front. I thoroughly recommend spending an afternoon with a glass of wine or beer or soda water going through that website. It's a good way to kill time. Although, be warned, some of that content should be classed as explicit. Take care, guys.